Thanks for tuning in to Unbreakable with ChrisChamasiros. I talk about politics, sports, and entertainment to keep you well-rounded. What's going on around the world? If you don't like hearing the truth, definitely don't tune into this channel. So let's get started today. So Nick Fuentes, he sits down with Tucker Carlson, and Nick Fuentes was absolutely sensational. He is a formidable opponent. I believe that if Nick Fuentes debated anybody, any politician, anybody in America, he would literally eat them alive. Because the only thing that Nick Fuentes does when it comes to policy or anything else is he's telling the truth, and he's very well versed in the truth. And he had Tucker Carlson on his toes. Tucker Carlson knows that Nick Fuentes is no slouch, and he definitely isn't a dummy. So let's jump into Nick Fuentes' story. Nick Fuentes is an 18-year-old college kid at Boston University, and he's walking around with his MAGA hat. You know, he's one of the few students, probably the only student that's going to walk around with a MAGA hat at Boston University. And I really respect him for that. I really respect him as an 18-year-old guy being brave, standing up for what you believe in, telling anybody that's willing to listen, hey, I'm an American nationalist. I'm America first. I'm for Americans and America. And so am I. I'm an American nationalist. I don't hide it. I don't care whose feelings are hurt. I'm for Americans and I'm for America. And for Nick Fuentes to be an 18-year-old college kid on campus, standing up for what he believes in and doing it in a way, a classy way, a dignified way, open to debate anybody, will go in an auditorium filled with insane liberal lunatics and have an open debate. And hey, prove me wrong. Let's have a debate. Let's sit down. Let's talk. Let's have a debate. And that alone is courage. Nick Fuentes is a warrior. He has been through the ringer, and that ringer started with Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro is the lowest life form on the entire planet. He's a low life. So let's get into that. Let's get into that situation. So there's a woman involved at the college, Casey Dillon, and Nick Fuentes is at an event. He's having a debate. Casey Dillon streams it, so it goes live, and 30,000 people tune in to watch it. And when that debate was over, which Nick Fuentes clearly won, he had 5 job offerings waiting for him. Now, at this moment in time, people are familiar with Nick because he was tweeting on campus, and he had an X following, but he wasn't what he is now with millions and millions of followers. So then Casey Dillon contacts Ben Shapiro, and she tells him, you got to see this kid. He's absolutely amazing. You should see him speak in person. He's one of the greatest speakers ever. And I believe that wholeheartedly. When Nick sat down with Tucker Carlson, you could tell that Tucker was on his toes. Nick Fuentes is super intelligent, super well-read, great speaker. Again, I believe that if Nick Fuentes debated anybody in the United States of America, he would absolutely eat them like a pit bull. Nick Fuentes is a pit bull. Nick Fuentes is a warrior. Nick Fuentes sticks up and stands up for what he believes in. And the thing that I admire the most about Nick Fuentes is this. And this is why I think he has so many, a lot of Black Americans follow Nick Fuentes and like what he has to say, and they like to tune into his show. You know why? You know why I believe that? Because with somebody like Nick Fuentes, at least you know exactly where you stand. At least you know exactly how he feels. And that's why he's so polarizing, because he tells you the truth. Would you rather sit across from somebody or conversate with somebody that they tell you one thing and then they do another? That's not Nick Fuentes' style at all. Nick Fuentes' style is he's a man. And he's been a man for a very, very long time. This full circle that's coming around now on social media, where you have politicians and you have everybody on social media saying that Israel is bringing us into all these wars. Why is President Trump putting Israel first over America? Why are we sending all this tax money over there? Nick Fuentes has been saying this since the very beginning. And Ben Shapiro tried to ruin his life over it. I'm going to swing back into that in a minute. So Ben Shapiro, he hears about Nick Fuentes, and Ben Shapiro sends an invitation out. Hey, Nick, do you want to take a trip to Israel? And Nick politely declines and says, no, I want to stay in America. And that's exactly what I would have said too. I haven't even been to all 50 states in America. I don't have no desire to leave the country. The only country I care about is the United States of America. And I'm glad that Nick told Ben Shapiro no. So what did the lowlife Ben Shapiro do after that? Once Ben Shapiro realized that Nick Fuentes, an 18-year-old man, you know that he saw the debate. You know he watched the debate, and he saw how Nick Fuentes spoke. He analyzed it right away. This kid's a threat. He's for real. He might be 18 years old, but he's a real problem. And if I don't get him on my side, if I don't get him in my pocket, he's going to be a real issue for us. So what does Ben Shapiro start doing? Putting it out there that Nick Fuentes is an anti-Semite and he hates Israel and he hates Jewish people. And nothing could be further from the truth. The only thing that Nick Fuentes has said since the very beginning, and he's saying it now, and I say the same thing, it's America first. America and Americans first. It's not Israel first. We're being dragged into all these wars all over the world because of Israel. How many troops have we lost? Do you know why we're always in debt? How is a country like America, trillions of dollars in debt, giving trillions of dollars away to foreign countries? Israel, Ukraine, Argentina, you can go down the line. It's never America first. And that's what Nick is about. And when Ben Shapiro realized this, that, wow, this young guy's sticking to his guns. He can't be bought. I can't just funnel him $1 million and he's going to throw all his principles aside like so many other YouTubers have done. What does Ben Shapiro and the machine do? Oh, Nick Fuentes is an anti-Semite. He needs to be taken down. The first time I ever heard about Nick Fuentes, I was reading the newspaper and it said, President Trump sits down with neo-Nazi Nick Fuentes. And I was like, who the hell is Nick Fuentes? And the first thing in my mind, I said, there's no way that President Trump would sit down with a neo-Nazi because he knows that it's going to be bad publicity for him. And then I read in the article that Kanye West was sitting right next to him like, wait a minute, this kid's a neo-Nazi, but he's with Kanye West? So I remember reading the article. I'm like, who is, like, why are they dogging this guy? And I started looking him up. I started watching his stuff. I'm like, he's not a neo-Nazi. He's an American nationalist. And so am I. I'm American nationalist. You don't like it, you're insulted, F you. Don't care. I don't care about any other countries but the United States of America. I don't think we should be involved in every country's garbage when our people here can barely survive and live. You make $70,000 a year here and it's like you're poor. So I don't care about overseas problems. That's not our problem. When Nick Fuentes says these types of things, I am fully on board. So then Casey Dillon, she doesn't just stop there. Nick Fuentes is hosting a show. He has his own radio show at that point. And this Casey Dillon, she's just an extension of Ben Shapiro. She's one of his lapdogs. She's going all to Nick Fuentes' bosses, trying to get him fired, trying to get him taken out of this program, slandering his name. So here you have this young man. He's a kid. He's a kid at this. He's 18 years old. He's a child. And because Ben Shapiro couldn't control him, couldn't buy him off for Israel, they try to ruin this kid's life, railroad him, put him on a no-fly list. He couldn't even fly on a plane. It's absolutely sickening. Sickening. Then he's telling the story when he wears MAGA hat at college that people would come up to him, tell him they're going to punch him in the face. Listen, it ain't just talk with me. If I was sitting next to Nick Fuentes in that lunchroom and I have a real problem with these type of people who they think they could say whatever they want. Everybody else is not entitled to an opinion. If I'm in that lunchroom sitting in Nick Fuentes and somebody came up there and was running their mouth because he had a MAGA hat on, I assure you it would go down and it wouldn't be pretty. And it's not just talk. That's the problem with Democrats and liberals. It's like they want to have their opinion. They could say whatever they want. They could be racist towards whoever they want. But you're not allowed to have your opinion. And once they deem it racist, oh my God. Every time I interview a Democrat, guess what they say? I'll be like, hey, how do you feel about Charlie Kirk's assassination? Oh, well, he brought it upon himself with his rhetoric. You know, if you put yourself out there like that. Oh, so hold on a minute. A guy that gives you a microphone and says, prove me wrong. is a fascist and he deserves to be, you know what, because he has a different opinion than you. That's your logic. It's just these people are evil. Ben Shapiro, you are a roach. You are the lowest of the low. You went after an 18-year-old kid and try to ruin his life and destroy him and have this stigmatism over him the rest of his life that he's a neo-Nazi because he didn't want to get in bed with Israel and promote Israel like Israel was the best thing ever for America. You're an absolute effing disgrace. You're a grown man at that point. And let me tell you something else, Ben Shapiro. Unlike you, who is bankrolled by rich Jewish investors who give you billions and trillions of dollars to start your bullshit business, Nick Fuentes, you know how he started his business? He earned it the hard way in a basement somewhere. Rose from the ashes, rose from the dirt to become what he is. Did he have any investors? Did he have big Jewish donors? If Ben Shapiro didn't have the people that he had backing him, Ben Shapiro would be working in Walmart, sweeping a floor somewhere. So it's always amazing how he thinks he's so smart. But just because he talks fast, he knows everything. The fake conservative lowlife Ben Shapiro, who attacks a child, Nick Fuentes at the time, and wants the entire planet to think that Nick Fuentes is a neo-Nazi because they saw how talented Nick Fuentes was. They saw, like, when you watch Nick Fuentes with Tucker Carlson, and this is another thing that I loved about Nick during the interview. A lot of times when people talk bad about each other online, they get in front of the person. Oh, I didn't say they backtrack all because they're not men. It's not being a man. They don't own their words. Nick's like, yeah, I insulted you because you insulted me. Okay. He didn't back off of it. He didn't stray from it. And then at one point, Nick tells Tucker, well, how come your thoughts on Israel aren't offensive, but mine are? Like, what are we saying that's so much different? Why do you have a problem with mine, but yours are okay? And of course, Tucker does the Tucker thing. He changes the subject, he deflects. Not a fan of Tucker Carlson because with Tucker Carlson, you don't know where you stand. One minute he's over here, he's over there, he's hiding behind he's a Christian. Oh, I'm a Christian. We never do that. I'm a Christian. I'm a Christian. Just stop. Some of the most corrupt people on the planet are Christians. How do you think they built all these mega churches? You know, they built all these mega churches with $5 billion jets because they prey on the elderly. Oh, give me your last penny so I could say a blessing over your life. So just knock it. Stop. I cannot stand when people who are Christian, Catholic, whatever you are, stop bringing God into it. Oh, I could never do that. Oh, I'm a godly person. Listen, everybody sins, everybody, and nobody's perfect. So when I hear Tucker keep doing that cop out, oh, I'm a Christian, I can't, just shut up. Then Tucker's other cop out was, why do you care? Why do you care? I'll give you the perfect example of that. So Nick, he endorses Joe Kent, and they have a gentleman's agreement. He tells Joe Kent, I'll endorse you. I know my name is not good because of Ben Shapiro, and that's exactly what it is. I'll endorse you, but the only thing you can't do is you can't denounce me in public. So what does this lowlife Joe Kent do? This weasel, this cockroach, this worm, this spineless politician turd who supposedly is America first. He starts bad mouthing Nick Fuentes on X, on Twitter. And then when Nick confronts him, he doubles down. Nick's like, hey, I thought we had an agreement. He's like, okay, you know what? No problem. You're on your own now. I'm not supporting you. And Tucker's response to this is, who cares? Who cares? You know why you can't grasp this, Tucker? You know why you can't comprehend this type of stuff? You know why it doesn't anger you? Because you're not a man. That's why. Because you don't stand for anything. Because if I went to sit down with you in a sit down face to face and we had an agreement like men and I shook your hand and you told me that was the agreement, and then you do the total opposite, I'm telling you now, one way or the other, it's going to come back around to you. So to bash Nick Fuentes and, oh, you should leave him alone and who cares? Who cares? And, you know, Tucker made me sick. Tucker really shows his true stripes during this interview. So I'm not a big fan at all. the quirky, he's all over the place. He doesn't stand for anything. And Nick, he looks so much more polished than Tucker in this interview. People say, oh, Tucker Carlson should run for office. No, he shouldn't. He doesn't stand for anything. He's all over the place. One minute he says this, next minute he says that. With Nick Fuentes, at least you know exactly where you stand every second of the day. And you know what that's called? You know what that's called? That's called being a man. That's called backing up your words. That's called owning what you say. And that goes a long way in my book, especially in 2025 with all the cream puffs and cupcakes we got running around, running for office, who would sell their own kids in a heartbeat to get elected, throw anybody under the bus to get elected. Their behavior is absolutely disgusting. And we don't have real men running the country anymore. And that's why the United States of America is in the shape that it is, because of the men in this country. They're either corrupt, they don't keep their word, they backtrack, they're cowards, they're weasels. Ben Shapiro is an absolute dirtbag. He's the lowest life form on earth. You went after an 18-year-old kid. It's not Nick Fuentes, the 28-year-old guy that's seasoned, that's been through the fire. He's just starting out. He's in college. So now he has all his peers attacking him in college because he's being branded a neo-Nazi because he wore a Trump hat, because he wore a MAGA hat. But the best part about it is they tried to buy him first. Hey, let's take a trip to Israel. You can kiss the wall. We'll fund all your projects, Nick. We'll give you money. But the only thing you got to do is you got to sell your soul to Israel. You got to say how Israel is America's greatest ally and the greatest friend, and how great the people are over there. You got to say everything positive. You can't say one thing negative. And Nick said, no, thank you. I'm about America and Americans first. Do you know what 99.9% of people would have done in that situation? Because they would have seen dollar signs in their head. They would have said, put me on the first trip over there. I'm going right now. At 18 years old, they would have sold their soul for the amount of money that they... Look at all the politicians in the United States of America who are bought and paid for by Israel. And Nick Fuentes is an 18-year-old kid, broke, college kid, struggling to pay his rent, struggling to pay his bills, struggling to pay his tuition. He comes from a blue-collar background. And he says, nope, I don't align with those principles. I'm not going. I'm America first. I got nothing but respect for this warrior named Nick Fuentes, because that's what he is. 1 minute Tucker's like, oh, I was slighted last night by a female friend and my feelings are hurt. Next minute, he's telling Nick Fuentes, oh, why don't you just let stuff go? Who cares? Who cares? Oh, who cares? Why are you mad at that? Why are you? Tucker is just Tucker. Hey, Tucker, when you were on Fox News, how come you weren't saying all the things that you say now? And Tucker keeps wanting to give Marjorie Greene Taylor a pat on the back. You don't think that these politicians see which way the ocean is flowing now? How citizens in America are getting fed up with AIPAC? And now it seems like if you take money from AIPAC, you're not going to get voted in. So now they all have monetary reasons why they're not going to take money from AIPAC. Now they all have reasons why they're going to come out and tell the truth about Israel getting us involved in foreign affairs and endless wars and giving them billions of dollars in tax money, because now they can't get elected if they take the AIPAC money. So now they got all this incentive to say the right thing. But you know who's the one guy that's been saying the right thing forever? Nick Fuentes. And I don't want to hear that he doesn't like Jewish people. That's a total lie. Just because you don't agree that America shouldn't put Israel first doesn't mean you dislike Jewish people. It just means you're looking out for America and Americans. That's all it means. But when you do that, we all know what's going to happen to your name. You're an anti-Semite. And that's what Ben Shapiro and Casey Dillon did to Nick Fuentes. They saw that he could be a threat in politics, on social media, and everywhere else that he spoke, that when he speaks, it makes people think, like, let me do some research. Let me rethink what I've been taught. I was taught that in a Christian church. I was taught that for years. Israel is the apple of God's eye. Israel first. God loves Israel. God doesn't love America. Jewish people are God's chosen people. And then you read the the New Testament and God's chosen people are anybody that believes in Jesus Christ. I personally believe that America is the apple of God's eye. I personally believe that Americans are God's chosen people. Why are we so blessed compared to every other country in the world if we're not God's chosen people? Why does every country in the world need our help, the United States of America, if we're not God's chosen people? So I don't buy into that notion anymore, and I do not go to Christian churches anymore. That was a while ago. Because the lies that get told, it's all for profit, it's all for power, and it's a lie. It's 1,000% lies. So when Tucker's like, oh, I'm a Christian, I could never do that. Or I'll say it again. Well, how did all these Christian mega pastors buy their churches? Oh, that's right. They preyed on their congregation. That's what they will suck every dollar out of you to buy their churches, their jets, their $50 million homes, because Christians never lie, right, Tucker? And the funniest thing that gets said is Nick Fuentes says when he was young in high school, he used to watch the Mark Levin show. And Mark Levin got him thinking how all this illegal immigration and non-European immigration is not good for America. So in essence, Nick says, and even Tucker says, that Mark Levin, of all people, radicalized Nick Fuentes. Isn't that hysterical? Because Mark Levin is Jewish. And Mark Levin had the biggest impact on Nick Fuentes' views. But according to the world and Ben Shapiro, Nick Fuentes hates Jewish people because he wants to put America first. Nick was also talking about marriage and the unbearable liberal women in the United States of America. And that's why marriage numbers are down. And that's why babies aren't being born. And he's absolutely right. Men just can't take it. We have enough to deal with. You want to go home and deal with that all day? No, thank you. I'd rather buy a dog. Nick was talking about his views on drugs. I totally agree with him. Marijuana makes you stupid. Marijuana is a gateway drug. He doesn't believe in it. It makes you lazy. He was spot on about every single thing he said to Tucker Carlson. And the best part about it all was I could smell it on Tucker. He knew he was not dealing with an idiot. He was on his toes. Because, again, Nick Fuentes, I believe he could beat any person in the United States of America in a debate. Now, I'm going to end it with this. Ben Shapiro, you are an absolute one of the worst human beings on planet Earth. So is your partner, Casey Dillon. You try to destroy an 18-year-old kid because you couldn't buy him and pay him off. You are the scum of the planet. Nick Fuentes, think about this. I want you, he's a kid in college, 18 years old, proud to be American. His MAGA hat on. America first. I love America. This is the greatest country in the world. I love Christmas trees. I'm going to mass with my family on Christmas. America first. And that's just so insulting to all the liberal lunatics. And Ben Shapiro comes in, tries to buy it, doesn't work. So Ben Shapiro is responsible for this evilness associated with Nick Fuentes' name. Try to railroad an 18-year-old innocent kid. Ben Shapiro, you are total garbage. And with that being said, thanks for tuning in to Unbreakable with Chris Chamasiros.